The big question about hip mobility is that you are trying to create space in that hip, right? So you can stretch all you want. You can do hip flexor stretches and glute stretches and hamstring stretches, and that hip just never seems to open up. You're never able to sit down on the floor with your legs crossed and let your knees drop to the ground. And part of that issue is that the joint space itself, the literal ball and socket of the hip, is really closed down. That comes a lot from, say, if you're sitting a lot, right, then you're kind of sitting with the joint in this forced jammed position, and it just gets used to being there. There's a lot of reasons that it happens. One of the little tricks you can do is actually start to create mobility within the hip structure, and you do that by literally putting traction on the joint. You can do this without the band. It can be accomplished. The difference of the band is that it adds that much more to the work. So I'm going to show you what I'm looking for. So when you're in all fours, you're literally taking that joint, which is closed into the front of your hip, and you're encouraging it to shift backwards. You're taking that ball that's inside the socket and sitting in the front of the socket, and you're encouraging it to push backwards. So simply by being in all fours, holding this weighted position here, we're starting to take that femur and shove it up towards the ceiling. Now we start to put a little bit more weight on it, and you've got yourself a little load through that hip right there. Now what you can do is hang right here. You're just gonna noodle on this, just gonna hang out right here and just play, right? A little bit to the side, a little bit to the front, about a minute or two, doesn't need to be much. Now for most people, that hip immobility is also gonna be from a place of rotation. So let's take this same idea and add a little rotation. So now I've got this knee, this whole hip in external rotation, and I'm going to do the same thing where I keep the weight on it and start to rock back and forth. You might notice that you start to feel a little pressure right here that feels different from a stretch. It's going to feel like something's pushing up towards the ceiling because it kind of is. You're putting weight on that socket and adjusting where the ball sits in the socket. Now, that's an excellent place to start. I would encourage anybody to do that because you're encouraging making that space. The trick, and this is in large part, credit goes where it is due to Kelly Starrett over at the Ready State. If you don't follow him, it's a great follow. He's always loaded with good information. You want a pretty thick, heavy band. So usually if you're at the gym, that's the place to do it because it also requires a pretty sturdy anchor point. I have tried couches, I have tried tool chests, I have tried all sorts of stair banisters, and all of them, they give a little too much. But a squat rack or a wall rack like this is anchored so heavily that you'll be fine. Take a pretty thick band and you're going to put it up really high up into your space, right? So it's going right up into the groin. And what you're doing is you're taking, so here's your femur and here's your hip socket, right, on your pelvis. And you're taking that band and you're literally grabbing the neck of the femur and tractioning it out away from the joint. So if I come out here, give myself a little space, right? Again, I'm in that all fours position because I'm putting weight through that leg. But now I've got a little distraction, a little space being provided by the band. Same wiggling, same coming back and forth, and then the same rotational work with the added benefit of the distraction from the band. Again, 1 to 2 minutes, maybe 3, but that's kind of overkill before your workouts. Then of course you're going to follow it with a little bit of activation of the glutes, maybe a little bit of core and postural warm up, and then you go on with your workout. See how it goes. As always, it should be pain-free. If it feels in any way uncomfortable or you feel new sensations such as tingling, stinging, burning, pain, you're doing something, stop and get some help. Hope you enjoy it.